Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the Miles with Moms podcast, everyone. Thanks for being here. I am Whitney.
I'm Olivia.
I'm Shanna.
And we have been chit-chatting before we hit record about serious things and not so serious things. But today we are getting serious about getting faster because we've had several people ask us how we got faster. And I think there's probably some parallels in their journeys, but also some differences as well. So we're excited to share our journeys with you and what we've learned along the way. But before we do that, Shanna, I believe you. Oh, and I have to say, obviously, Tricia is unable to join us today because she has to work. She had a work thing come up, so she is wearing many hats.
She's awesome. I don't know how she's keeping up with it. Like, I'm sure she asks that question to herself every time. She's like, I don't even know.
She's literally like minute by minute. And it's not even like her life is so busy, just normal. It's like she's been thrown so many curveballs with illness and school closures from weather. And then like every time that happens, she has to rebook all of her patients. And oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing she's the type of person that can go on 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know. It always makes me laugh when we get those messages from her and it's like 4 a.m. your guys' time. And I'm like, of course Tricia's up.
Yeah.
She's starting her day and planning out what's ahead like at 4 a.m. in the morning. And I'm just barely rolling out of bed. So just impressive.
Yeah, very much. All right. Another impressive person.
Yeah, so this is from Gabriella, or she also goes by Gabby. She's Gabby.GetRootedInHealth on Instagram. And she sent a shout out and it's pretty good. So she said, I am a mom of 4 kids ages 8 and under. I'm a personal trainer and group exercise instructor and lover of all things health and wellness. I also have a podcast called Rooted in Health. I homeschool, bake sourdough, love to garden, and be outdoors. Fell more in love with distance running post high school and ran my first half marathon in 2012, but never really trained hardcore or anything. Had a Boston BQ in 2017 at 8 months postpartum.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
But ended up backing out because I got pregnant and would have been 7 months pregnant at Boston. I think somebody must have that sentence right there. I have made so many great friends along the way. Have figured my way around running and being a mom these last 8 years. My 4th pregnancy, I ran a marathon 16 weeks pregnant. Wasn't that the plan? It was my first time running basically up till my due date and felt great. When I came back to running this time around, May 2023, I discovered heart rate training and fell in love with the concept and everything shared about it. I've continued to challenge myself and just show up, learn to love the treadmill and stroller runs and roll with the punches when having little people. Enjoy the journey. I ran my first 50K last year as well as PR'd a half marathon. I can't wait to see where running takes me over the years. Looking to my first trail 50K this May and run Chicago in October. I'm grateful for all the life lessons running has taught me and that it's always there for me through the ups and downs in life. It helped me process a lot of my life and has given me rich conversations with so many women.
Oh, wow. She's
so
really
cool.
Killing it.
She does everything. I see her making sourdough bread all the time. And I'm like, I need to up my game at home.
That's the thing. My sister's really into sourdough too. And I'm like, why? Because I didn't understand where it came from. I didn't know if there was a story behind it. And she was just like, no, I just wanted to start doing it. So like every weekend she's home because she travels a bunch. She's making sourdough. I do love sourdough.
It's
a good sourdough grilled cheese with some tomato soup.
That sounds so good. Yeah.
My husband would love if I started making sourdough. I whenever anybody brings it over, I always compare everything. I'm like, I wish you would eat food that I make the way that you eat that person's sourdough because I've never seen him consume food like that, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but
I'm just picturing him over in the corner, like making love to the sourdough.
Just like, if there was a love story, it would be between my husband, butter, and sourdough bread. So. Yeah, I gotta give him credit for that. He does love
Meanwhile,
it.
in my world, it's like anytime something comes up where I don't know, my husband he'll eat Brussels sprouts like at a restaurant. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you like Brussels sprouts. You never eat it when I make it. And he's like, yeah, I like it when properly prepared. I'm like, oh,
Properly prepared.
like,
Yeah.
all right, noted. I need to slice them more
Otis.
finely. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
That's always my thing. I'm always rushing.
At restaurants, it's like with like deep fried and with bacon and stuff. And I'm like, I prefer my Brussels sprouts like that too. But at home, sometimes we just have to eat the vegetable itself.
Right.
Everything is better
Exactly.
fried with bacon, right? But
Yeah.
Yes, this is true. And of course, like I got myself into the hole where I am always making 4 different suppers.
Oh, that's so hard.
yeah.
Even though it's my fault, but it's
It's
just
just
it is
hard.
how it is.
Yeah.
You know?
I can't imagine your grocery order though. Like you're like, okay, this person likes this person likes this, and right? Like, is that how you have to order? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hard.
Period. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it is the way it is. It won't be like it forever, I
No,
don't
it
think.
won't.
But
Hopefully
it's
not.
it's the bed I made for myself because I want people to eat, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, woe is
Well-
me. Well, that's for another topic, Shanna. You brought up the victimization of motherhood. So we'll talk about that another one. Like, I'm not going to sit there and be mad or feel sorry for myself that I'm making 4 suppers. Like, you know, it's just the current reality and it's all good. We are lucky to be eating 4 suppers.
Yes.
Right?
Except for you, that has to make it. But
Right. Yeah. There's a lot going on in the kitchen.
yeah.
What's wrong with you right now? Relax.
Okay. Well, on that note, all right. How we got faster. Who wants to go first with their journey? Okay, I'll go.
You go.
It is kind of top of mind because I saw a post, Polly, Mommy to Sub 3. She listed all of her marathon times, and I was like, oh, that's fun. Maybe I'll do that. And so I started writing the list because I don't even know how many marathons I've run. Where I feel most people know that, you know,
No.
and I didn't. So I've run 10.
Wow.
And I'm going by marathon. I'm going by marathon, where obviously it could be any distance, but marathons are the ones I've been most consistent in. Because, like, you know, it's like, oh, you'll sign. I've never had a goal half marathon or 5K or anything like that. Like, all my half marathons have been tune-up races. And so, gosh, now I don't even know where I put the list. Way to go, Whitney. But so I ran my first marathon in college, and that was a 3:29. And I had I did the Jeff Galloway 3:30 plan. I was like,
oh, wow.
And I ran a 3:29. Like, it's kind of crazy how that worked out. And then I didn't run another one until, I think it was 2009. So that was like 2003. And then I met my husband and we like to run together. And so we ran several marathons. Like, we would travel and go. We went to Cape Cod. We went to Bar Harbor, Maine. I ran a couple of Bostons in there. And so that I think we did 4. And all of them were, again, like a Jeff Galloway or Hal Higdon plan. And my fastest time was a 3:12 at Boston, which awesome. I think that was 2012, because I think it was the year before the bombing, which I think was 2013.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had babies, you know? So then I took another break and started running, got a coach in 2018, and decided 6 weeks beforehand to run a marathon in 2019 here in Knoxville, which is like crazy hilly. And once I got the coach, that was a 3:01, which on a flat course, it was easy, a sub 3.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like, just, you know, chip away, get injured, chip away, get injured, yada, yada, yada. But the rest of them were all sub 3s. So all that's to say, so I had a big jump, you know, like of 11 minutes or whatever. Once I had my second and final kid in 2017, and then, ran a marathon two years after that. So I had a big jump, and I would say I always thought a sub-3 marathon was like crazy. I didn't know anybody who had people have gotten so much faster since then. Like back in when I was in college in my 20s, like to run a sub-3 marathon, I was like, I would have to be on drugs or something. Like there's no way, like I'm going to be juicing. Watch out. But it actually wasn't that hard to make the jump. And really, it was just being intentional with my training. And because before, with a training plan, it was like, it didn't meet me where I was at. I didn't really know what paces, like, because you work backwards. You'd be like, okay, 3:30, here are the paces I need to run, for whatever workouts, instead of meeting me where my current fitness was. And so once I got a coach who met me where my current fitness was and grew me from there, that's how I got faster. So I would say that was like the biggest change. And with that, now what I'm noticing too is like fueling has been super important, because for the first year that I worked with that coach, and we started doing longer runs, and I had not done long runs in a long time. And in my previous marathon builds, it was like the static, like you would just incremental, like add a mile each weekend. So they weren't a part of my, like the bread and butter of my usual training, I was dead. I'd come in the door and I'd be so dead. And I remember my coach at the time was like, what are you eating when, like, before, during, after? And it was basically nothing. And when I'd come in the door, especially, I'd be like back to like mom mode, cleaning, dealing with the kids. And so once I started eating, then I realized my recovery was so much better. And I just felt just overall so much better with my training. And that also helped me get faster. And polarized training which is what I'm really focusing on now, which I know you guys do a great job with your heart rate training, which I'm sure you're going to talk about. And just making, I do kind of like eyeball where my heart rate is when I do run, but for me, it's based on feel. And so a lot of new runners, I think they run in the gray zone because they're used to running feeling hard. Like when you start running, you will, if you are consistent, obviously being consistent is really important. And then intentional is the second most important, I would say. But a lot of new runners are used to running feeling hard. And then they think every run should feel hard. So they're always kind of running in that moderate zone, where really it should be, for most people, unless you're doing like really high or really low mileage, you should have around an 80-20 split, where 80% of your running is easy, like run all day. I always say it's the 3 C's, like it's controlled, it's comfortable, and you can hold a conversation. And then the other 20% together is more intensity and different zones. And that 20%, it can be, if you're doing like a lot of VO2 max work for some reason, it may be a little less than 20%. If it's like a threshold work, race pace work, it may be a little bit more than 20%. So that's just like, but being true to my zones, because I, for the longest time, would run my easy runs way too fast, which I do think also contributed to my injuries. And so today, because I am digging myself out of like a 2-year hole, because I had an injury, and then this last year was mostly just easy running. I am noticing that the speed is starting to come back, in large part because I'm feeling good for the workouts, because I am slowing down on the easy days and running easy paces that I would honestly, like a couple years ago, wouldn't be caught dead running, because I was just like, I always run in these pace zones. And it wasn't even like for vanity's sake or whatever, like I'm running for Strava. It was just like, this is what I was used to running, so that's what I would do. I was automatically programmed. So I really had to slow myself down. To do that, I will listen to like slower music, talk on the phone, and listen to podcasts like Miles with Mom's podcast. And so those have been some really big difference makers for me. And I don't know. I guess the last point is like when you are a new runner, it is easy to make those big jumps. Like if you are consistent, you will be rewarded pretty quickly. And then it'll be harder once you get that like higher baseline of fitness. It is harder to chip away. It's like that's why you don't see 2:30 marathoners like, oh, then I ran a 2:25 and then I ran a 2:20 and then I ran a 2:10, and it just happened so easily. It's like so much harder to make those cuts because you really have to hone in on your fitness. So it's like you can get away with just running like the same easy miles every day and seeing gains. But then after you build that base, then you really need to start being intentional with your training in different zones to get faster. All right, that's it. Drop the mic. I'm done.
All right, that's it.
I think we're good with the episode. I think we covered it all. I love that you talked about all that because as our listener, I don't know if all of our listeners know, but Whitney is a coach. Like she coaches one-to-one athletes. She's coached them for several times. She has her own page that you talk about so many topics. You've researched so many things. And so I think it's just great to hear, like, even coming from you, that you've even had to learn over time.
Hi, Otis.
Oh my gosh.
Olivia's dog, if you guys ever watch on YouTube, he is taking over the screen right now. He's so handsome.
He's like, it's my turn. I'll tell you how it goes. I ran myself for 3 hours 2 weekends ago. Anyways, I just think it's so great to hear your journey. Like, I'm always so fascinated with your journey, and especially like when you started your first marathon, like you didn't have the super shoes, you didn't have the fueling knowledge like we have today. You didn't have like a lot of the information I feel like we have right now has adapted so much since 2009. Like I even think about when I competed in high school, like it's a totally different world.
It totally is different. I think about that because, I ran Marine Corps in college.
Yeah.
Because I said, like, my dad, he would run the Marine Corps every year, and he never broke 4 hours. And he has this story where I think it was his last Marine Corps he ever ran. And it's a big deal because he was in Vietnam. He was wounded. He was never supposed to, like, walk again, let alone run marathons. And the first year he was in D.C. to run Marine Corps, the doctor who told him that he would never be able to like walk again was on TV because I think he was treating Ronald Reagan or something. And it was just like very fortuitous. Like here he is running marathons. But anyways, he was crossing, I forget the name of the Higgs Point Bridge or something. And it's towards the end. It's like where you hit the wall, and he realized that he wasn't going to break 4, and he like ripped off very dramatically, like ripped off his headphones and threw it into the Potomac River. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, you couldn't break 4 hours, Dad? But like he was probably running in like waffle shoes, and like they didn't have gels, and he was drinking water, and he's wearing cotton t-shirts, and like and he was a dad runner, so he would run from his house to work and then run home, like easy. That was how he got his miles in, which it's funny now as a kid. Like I didn't think about like how much that was on him. But anyways, yeah, like no wonder we're getting faster. So we have the fancy gels. We have the fancy shoes. We have the fancy like sweat wicking gear and stuff. So there's a lot to learn. I will say, like, you pointed out that I'm a running coach, so I should know this stuff, but like, I have gotten in my own way so many times. Like that's another thing that can really slow down your training. And our episode with Nick, I think, really pointed that out. I was listening back to it today. Nick Klistava was on a few weeks ago. He is a running coach. He's my running coach. And he said that he got faster once he stopped obsessing over the times. Because when you obsess over the times and you're trying to force your fitness, that's when you get into trouble. That's when you get injured. That's when you're overtrained. That's when you get burnt out. And so that is something that I have learned time and time again. And so running really tries to teach you to be just like in the moment. Don't look too far ahead. Don't look too far behind. Like really be where you are currently. It's a beautiful metaphor for life. Yeah. Really.
I agree.
So does Otis.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening, guys.
He just wants his mommy.
Yeah.
Olivia,
I think it's awesome that like usually you have kids in your lap and now your kids are like off playing with somebody, so now you have your
I
dog
just
in
have
your
the
lap.
dog. I know. I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, I am just never alone ever.
Yesterday I was going to the bathroom and like Cal came in with a Gatorade and he's like, "Can you open this?" I'm like, "Really? Like, come on, man."
That is peak motherhood. Always doing
Always.
stuff while you're in the bathroom. Yeah.
Okay. So Shanna, your journey, because I know you dealt with overtraining once you got back into running, right?
Yeah. And I just want to make it like clear too, like if you're a mom that's listening to this and you're going through the pregnancies and postpartums and the kids after kids, or maybe you just had one and you're not faster right now, that's okay too. Like I had 6 kids in 6 years, and I could tell you from the point beyond, like before 2022, when I got back into running more seriously, I was not faster than my old self, right? So all those years of my motherhood before that, like, were not faster than when I was before. And I was okay with that. Like, I embraced that season of my life. And maybe that's not somebody else's goal on here. So I just wanted to say that loud, because I feel like it's really easy. Like I personally, I saw a few moms that killed it this last weekend. And so excited for them. But then I also kind of went in this spiraling, like, man, they did that after 8 months postpartum. And that's like my PR right now. And I was like, how did they do that? And then I looked back and I saw their track history. Like, they were collegiate runners, D1 collegiate runners. They've been running up until that point of their pregnancy. And that, and so it's just like, you never know where somebody's baseline is. And your history with running is going to indicate that too. Like, even my baseline, like I came back with my baseline being at a certain point because I ran so many years before that, even with the 11 years of inconsistency. And so just to make sure like people aren't comparing when they hear these stories.
Oh yeah, never compare.
Because I just get so nervous. Like, it's just easy to spiral and be like, man, am I doing enough? Or why am I not as fast? Or, I'm dedicated, but it's not clicking as quick.
Yeah,
so anyways, I just need to get that out of the way. But
I think that's such a good point, because faster doesn't necessarily mean better too. Like, again, it shouldn't, like, your running journey shouldn't be qualified by your times, and that's something that I have had to learn and strip away. And it is so like empowering to strip that away, because right now I am nowhere near what I was a couple of years ago, but it's still like, I'm trying to look at it with fresh eyes. Like, I'm new to this sport again, and it's fun and being surprised each time. And so, like, if you are if you're out there and you're enjoying yourself, that's really all that matters. Don't let comparison steal the joy, as cliche as that sounds, because like, if you're putting in the work and you're having fun doing it, then that's all that matters. But if you are like putting in the work and deep down, like, something's off, then go get your labs done, look under the hood, because that was something too for me. And then it was like, your hormones are out of whack and your ferritin is super low, and it was like, that was another thing. Once I got that sorted out, then I felt better too. So sorry to interrupt you, but that's a very good point.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we have so many barriers as moms. Like, it's again, it's hard to like admit them sometimes, because we don't want to fall in that victimization, right? Like, where motherhood becomes a negative in our life. But at the same time, we have menstruation cycles, perimenopause, like all of those things, like your hormones, all that stuff, like it plays into our where we're at in our training and how we progress. It's like, I truly feel like there's this image that somebody posted the other day of a mom, and then there was like, she was on the track. You guys have probably seen it. I don't know if it was by Runner's World or somebody, but it was a mom on a track, and then there was like laundry and then dishes, and then like she was like having to hurdle through all these things, that, Olivia, you mentioned the invisible load not long ago. And that's exactly what I think about. I'm like, we are literally doing that on the daily. Like, today I ran on my treadmill and my kids were around me, and I'm like, in the middle of a 1 km repeat, running paces I haven't ran in a little bit, and she's like trying to slide down the slide, but it's on this tilt, and I'm like, she's gonna fall, and I'm like, get off that slide, but I'm like, because I'm in the middle of this workout. Anyways, but I just like, yeah, we go through a lot to get out that door or to get on
Oh
the
yeah.
treadmill, you know? And, but yeah, so anyway, sorry, long winded. So yeah, I picked up running in 2022 again, after doing it most of my life since a really young age. And I think that the biggest game changer for me to get faster was to get a coach, like you said, Whitney, like getting a coach, finding a coach that could see like from a perspective that I couldn't see, or even schedule workouts that I was intimidated to run even now. Was very helpful for me because there's paces that like my coach still gives me that I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, you know? But yeah, so that helped a ton. Like if you can afford a one-to-one coach, or I mean, that's your best bet. Like a one-to-one coach is your best bet to progress. And then obviously secondary to that would be a very structured plan that has more detail in it. And then obviously beyond that would be a generic plan. So yeah, I feel like that one-to-one coach was a game changer for me. I've been with my coach since 2023 of January, and he's helped me just like you said, Whitney, slow down. He's helped me to see where I'm at in the current season. It's taken like a lot of chucking my ego a lot of times, being more humble at where I was at. Like I've had to also run, and I still am actually running paces that I feel like a lot of even like 3:30 marathoners run, and I'm running them on my easy runs because my aerobic base it's progressing, but it's not progressing as much as my speed side is. And so it's just taking me a little bit more time to get everything to kind of match up. But it's a long haul game for me. And so, yeah, getting faster, like I hope my fastest self is at the end of my 30s and into my 40s. And that's what I just keep telling myself right now. Like every season is just stacking one after another. And there's going to obviously be some lows and some highs along the way. Like I didn't PR at CIM, even having a great build up to that point. But I still walked away with another experience of a marathon that I got to put under my belt and learn something new about myself. And, you know, we get to move forward with that. So, but yeah, I use heart rate based training. I love it. I definitely have, I feel like it's the main thing that I love from it is not even so much the metric itself. It's that it's taught me what feeling, the effort, like what effort is in easy runs, what effort is in marathon paces. That's like marathon was a whole new thing for me. Right. And so when my coach was like, all right, go run this at marathon pace, I was like, what is that? Like, what does it feel like to run something for 26.2 miles? I didn't even know, you know? And so heart rate just allowed me to really dial into that and like get a better idea of like, okay, what does my body feel like running easy pace? What does my body feel like running at moderate? What does my body feel like running at 10K, half marathon, and so forth? And yeah, that's the biggest takeaway now. It's like I'm at a point where like I hardly ever look at my watch. Like usually I can tell when I'm starting to creep up into a different zone already because I just have become so familiar with what's going on internally. And that's been a big game changer for me. It's just teaching me to be honest with myself and just it helps me slow down. Like really, it just helps me slow down, stay in the right zone. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna ask about. Hey, kids. Sorry, my kids just.
Oh.
Oh, okay. I love you. I was curious about heart, like the kind of the compare contrast of being like pace specific versus heart rate zone specific. Like, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on. Will we ever do a podcast where we're not, you know?
Nope.
This is mom life. So you felt like the biggest distinction it would be like you were running outside yourself, like you were forcing paces that you weren't ready yet, even though your coach was giving you paces based on what she thought you could do. It was because you were racing your workouts. Is that why?
yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, like nobody should ever be doing 2-mile repeats at their 5K effort like that. Like it doesn't make sense. I mean, when you're doing multiple rounds of 2-mile repeats, 3x2 miles, like there's a reason why I couldn't finish that workout. And so, yeah, I definitely feel like and it goes to both of us. Like I was eager to get back quick and she was eager because she saw talent in me. And so I don't ever want to like I don't ever want to paint her into this picture of like she wasn't a good coach. I think we just both were so hungry for more that like we both missed the bigger picture in the moment because we got lost in the moment. And so I really like, yeah, I feel like and it got to me mentally. Like I couldn't finish a lot of workouts. And then it was like, well, maybe, you need to work on your mental side of running. And I'm like, here we go again. I'm not cut out to be a fast runner because I mentally just can't handle it, And then I come to find out it's like my coach, I get on with my new coach and he's like, why are you doing these workouts at these paces? And I'm like, I don't know, because they were given to me. And if a workout's given to me, I'm going to attempt it. Like, I'm not the type of person that's just going to be like, whatever, like I'm going to do my own thing. Most time than not, if I get a range of paces, I'm going to go at the top end of that pace and I'm going to ride that pace all the way through. And it's the same with heart rate. And my coach always tries to tell me, he's like, just because I give you this pace range, it doesn't mean that I want you at the fastest end. It means that I want you to gradually build up and then end where you feel most comfortable so that you feel like you have 2 more reps in you by the end, right? And that's still something I'm trying to teach myself. But yeah, like with my old coach, I was overtrained, definitely. And I think we were both guilty of that. I think we both I wanted it so bad. I was so excited that it was finally my season after 6 kids. And then she saw so much talent in me. And then we're a bad clique because we fed into that with each other. So
it's so interesting. Yeah, I am the same way too. And it's so hard with our personalities, I think, to realize that like doing too much or doing more can bite you in the butt. Like we just think that we have to kill ourselves and that's going to reap the rewards. And it just doesn't make sense to us that that actually leads to overtraining because first of all, you're not like training the proper systems that are like the focus of the workout, but then also you're digging yourself into this hole that you can't recover from. So yeah, it's just really hard to accept when you're like that type A go-getter personality. Like I was raised that like, I think I said in a past podcast, like if you didn't say yes, sir, you had to do push-ups. And it was like, you did 10 push-ups and then you always had to do 1 for the Marine Corps. Like you always had to do 1 for the Corps, And so it's like, that's how we are. Like, yeah, I'm always, if he would give me a range like 16, 18 miles, like you bet I'm doing 18 miles and you bet. And if he's like, finish the final mile, like 30 to 60 seconds faster, it's like, you bet I'm going to finish that final mile like as fast as I can. Like, it's just who we are. And it's so hard to like fight against that. But I just think there are so many instances like you as an example, Nick as an example, that like, that just doesn't work in running. Like maybe to a point, and then the risks far outweigh the rewards.
Yeah. And I think just remembering too, like I left the sport at 18, almost 18 years old. And I entered the sport as a 30-year-old with children. And so like, that's a big difference in the way you train, the way your body feels. Like that was another thing that you have to like adapt to. Like what age are you entering into the sport? And like, your training regimen is going to look so different. I mean, you could probably vouch for this, Whitney, like entering a different phase of life. Like it's just like, running looks different, and I'm learning that right now. Like, hey, maybe the low mileage isn't, or the high mileage isn't for me. Maybe I'm do a little bit of cross training, and then I get that extra from my cross training, and then just do my normal miles. I get through my workouts and my runs. That's something I'm still trying to play around with and figure out like what works best for my body. But I'm not 18 anymore, and the more I allow myself to accept that, the easier it's going to become to adapt to who I am today, so that I can get the most out of what I can now in my life,
I think that's so beautiful. And that's something too that I've struggled with, like comparing myself to the people in their 20s that I'm running with, who have no kids, who have no spouse. But if like, I think I've mentioned this also before, but David Roach was on the Ritual podcast, and he ran like crazy low mileage for somebody who went and slaughtered the record for Leadville 100. And it's because he did a ton of cross training, and he talked about how like he found what worked best for him. He found that running high mileage, he would get injured and it didn't work out. And so I think just like, if you can accept where you currently are and accept that, put your blinders on and focus on you and what works for you, that's where you can find success in the sport. I think when we are driven by fear and comparison and insecurities, like that's when you don't find success in the sport. That's when you find yourself on the sidelines, like watching everybody. I speak from experience. Okay, Olivia, you have shaved like 10,000 hours off of your marathon time.
10,000 hours
10,000
was my first marathon time. 10,000 hours and 30 seconds. Yeah. I think mine actually, like my tip for getting faster is, or like the thing I can really pinpoint the most is actually under training. I think like because I was self-coached for so long, and it was like I felt like I wasn't willing to bet on myself to run faster paces. Like I was just so afraid. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog, but he has really
Yes.
bad anxiety. So yeah.
Do you want to be out where the kids are? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but it's my
Okay.
friend's house, and she's like a little dog, so
Yeah, you'd be me.
I have a big dog. But
Otis.
I can't leave him at home. So because of this, Otis, stop. Let me
Olivia, I
talk.
love that you and I are like in a lot of ways like leading parallel lives. At least when it comes to our dog
Our
situation.
dogs, I know, and yeah.
You know.
I think so anyways, I think just not being I think so much of it was not being educated in the sport of running enough, right? Like I knew what things were, but it was so scary to try, I think, and like like that, like I still feel it though. Sometimes I like there's these workouts that I get, and I'm scared to feel so out of breath. Like my coach, he's been giving me a lot more workouts in the higher heart rates and carrying them for a while. And the fear that I have going into those and holding it, like I feel like I'm just like, what if I fail? And it's like, well, what if you do? Like, what if you need to stop? That's okay, right? Like nothing's gonna happen. Like I'm at home and on my treadmill in my basement. Everything's okay. But like, why not just take a bet on yourself and try it? And then, just I think so much was it just exposure to just different I think just exposure to different workouts and kinds of running. And I am still terrified to sign up for a 5K. I've never done a 5K, and so that's why, like, when you were talking about like the people that submit your Medal Mondays and stuff, like I don't think I ever look at their times, to be honest. Like I can't think of one person that I'm like, wow, that was such an amazing time. It's always like, you ran this 8 months postpartum. Like that's insane. You ran a 5K. I'm too afraid to sign up for a 5K. That distance scares me more than anything.
Oh yeah.
10K, and like a 10K would scare me. Like
I hate 10K.
yeah.
Terrifying.
And it sounds really long, but for whatever, and a marathon sounds extremely long too, but it's at such a different effort level that I love so much. And so much of it was just taking a bet on myself to like allow myself to take the sport seriously and learn about different workouts that are scary and just give them a shot, And so a lot of that came from even just like screenshotting a workout that I saw and like giving it a try and seeing like, ooh, could I even do this? And then, once I got a coach, obviously I'm still just so new to, I haven't even had a coach for a whole year, but it's crazy how different my running is now. It's like, I feel so in tune with my paces, and it's like, I feel like I'm like allowed to go and dip into the paces that I want to. And it's something that a year ago I just wouldn't have even been able to do. And then I think just I was constantly surprised every time I was finishing these races. I was surprised with my time, and I don't know that if that's a good thing. I think it's if you're surprised by your time, you're not in tune with what's going on with your body. And because I would set, like, for example, when I ran a 3:22 at Chicago, I was hoping for a 3:30, and like that, an 8-minute discrepancy on a flat course is it's pretty significant. I was just running with the pacer, and I was like, is this sustainable? I don't know. And I mean, like, that's crazy to not to just not know what but 8 weeks before Chicago, I had run a downhill race at a 3:39. Like those are very significant pace discrepancies that if you're not recognizing like what's happening, like you're very out of tune with your body. And even if you like say one-to-one coaching isn't something that you can afford, talking with a coach, like sorry, I got so Midwestern for a second.
Who could be?
Talking with a coach, it happens every once in a while. I have to dial it back.
Does
Talking
it
with
come out after you've had like a glass of wine?
Oh yeah, me and
Very
my mom,
Midwestern.
it's like, yeah, it's so strong. It's so strong. And the other day I was like, I can't stop saying ghost. Like I couldn't sound more Midwestern. I was like, a ghost, you know? Yeah, it happens all the time.
Wait, do you say leg or leg? Leg?
Leg?
Yeah, you say
I
leg.
say, I say leg, yeah.
Yeah.
And I say big and flag. I try to like dial it back, but especially after I've talked to my mom, we're just like, I'm like, hey mom, like,
No.
oh, don't you know? Anyways, I think even if you can like talk to a coach and consult with a coach in some way, shape, or form, just to maybe get a bird's eye view of like, yes, your workouts aren't hard enough. Your workouts aren't, they're not polarizing enough. Like if you've been doing the same workouts over and over and over again, it will help for a while, but eventually you will plateau. And so much of that is what was happening to me. I had like my favorite tempo workout, I had my favorite interval workout, and like it's so great that I was doing. It's like the more I talk, the louder he's getting. Sorry. um like it's great that I was doing those, but for 8 weeks that'll work. But if you're doing a 16-week training block, like after a while you will just not see progress. And yeah, so I think just really getting a bird's eye view on my training and honing into like where your body is at, because the marathon will always prove your fitness. A half marathon can show a lot about your fitness. And I don't really like to speak about half marathons a ton, because I don't know what I'm doing when I'm running them. Like I don't know why my effort it's very similar to my marathon effort. It's like I'm too scared to push it harder. I don't know. We'll see on Sunday, because we're running one, and we'll see on Sunday what happens.
Woo-hoo!
But
As long as
yeah,
there's water, you're golden, right?
yeah, water is good. Yes,
In the
let's hope
last
so.
time they ran one in Vegas, there was no water.
Yeah,
That's why I'm saying this.
It was crazy. And so I don't love to talk, because I'm not super well versed on the half marathon distance, but with the marathon, it will prove your fitness. And not at the beginning of the race, usually around 16 to 18 miles in, you'll start to see like where your actual fitness is at. And so I feel like having marathons that I have set goals for, and then either blowing past them or not getting those goals, was the best way for me to get faster, because it finally was like these big fat reality checks of like, this is not where you're at. And whether that was like, you're much faster than you thought, which is awesome, or like, you're just not where you thought you were. And then you can look back and be like, well, where are the holes in the training, So I really I feel like I've just had so much of like just having to reevaluate where I was at. And like a lot of times it was like, well, your workouts, they just weren't hard enough. That's why you didn't get faster. Like your easy runs were easy, and that's great. But if you're not really taking your speed workouts to the next level, like you just are not going to get faster. But like if you're writing your own plans and you don't know that you can go faster, like you do have to have a coach you do have to have a coach that'll tell you, you just give these paces a try. And like for us, it's like going into these heart rate zones. And like today I did have paces, which is awesome. And, and it's like, I don't know if I could hit these paces. I have no idea, and it's just like these constant reality checks of like, okay, you can, like that downhill race that I ran, that was a great reality check. I needed more time on my feet and I needed strength training. And so there was certain things like, yes, I had done like an 18 miler. I'm a firm believer that you do need 20 milers. I know that that's controversial for a lot of coaches. They don't feel like you need 20 milers. I really do. I think you need as much time on your feet, because like my feet have felt like they're on fire so many times at the end of races, and like that can be avoided by practicing being on them for that long. And so yeah, I've always felt that way. And that's been part of my reality checks, like, you should have run a 20 miler, and yeah, so I think that just really learning about my body and my fitness, and not comparing it to other people. Like, my lifestyle is so different in so many ways, or finding someone that it is similar to and how are they fitting it in has just been so helpful. And yeah, it's just been a lot of reality checks, I feel like. And I do think that after having my kids, running because I love my body, not because I hate it, was like the biggest reality check I ever had. I was so angry that I didn't feel good running. Like, I've talked about this nonstop, but like, it was like I was so angry at myself, like, run faster. And it was like, well, you should be enjoying this. And so it's just gotten so much better since I've learned to enjoy the process. And like, I love the workouts that I get now. And I enjoy running. I thought I was in love, excuse me. I thought I was in love with running before, but like, I am so much more in love with running now. Every week that I like get to see my workouts, and I'm like, oh, this is a real challenge, or like, I've got this. And then it always humbles me, and I'm like, I did not got that. So, yeah. So I think that's like my biggest advice is just like, if you're looking to get faster and you are currently not following a plan, like, do some research and see what works for you. And it's okay if it's not heart rate training or effort-based training. That's okay. Like, if you find something that fits into your lifestyle, that's the way to go. And if it makes you happy, so that it's not this thing that makes you just hate running
yourself.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because it doesn't work for your lifestyle, and it's because not what other people are doing. So
Yeah. I think like, if you've just been running, like, just running easy, any sort of intentional speed work is going to help you. Like, you can get a plan, and that will help you, having that dosage of speed. If affording a one-on-one coach is not possible for you, there are amazing books like Brad Hudson's Run Faster. Such a good book, has training plans in it. The Roaches, Megan and David Roach, they have The Happy Runner. That's a great book. I'm trying to think of, I think Jack Daniel's book. I think it's just a very generic name. It's escaping me. Jack Daniels, he's the V.O2 creator. He is like one of the godfathers of run coaching. Like, he's got a great book. That one's very like scientific, but you can look at those and adapt your own training. But of course, a coach will take the guesswork out for you, and they see the big picture. And as a mom, you do probably need flexibility. Like, right now, I checked my email this morning, and I think I had 8 people that were like, I'm sick, or my kids are sick and I'm not feeling well. And it's just like, okay, let's go, we're ready to adapt and adjust based on how everybody's feeling. So, but they, they are an investment. So, yeah, I think if you are not enjoying yourself and running is becoming like a tool of hatred, then something needs to change.
And it shouldn't feel hard all the time. And that's like, there's such a push for easy runs, easy everything. Like, the main thing with that is that it just shouldn't feel so hard all the time that you're like, oh, I just don't feel like going out there. Like, go run at the slowest pace you possibly can.
Walk as needed.
Yeah. And like, plug in something that you really enjoy listening to. Like, if you're on the treadmill, watch something that you really enjoy listening to. This is
Apple
your time.
cider vinegar.
Yeah.
Olivia and I are watching on Netflix. Jenna, are you watching that show?
I haven't, but I've heard good things about it. I'm like,
You're
I
gonna
need
want
binge
to.
it next.
Yeah, it's only 6 episodes too, so it's not like a big commitment. Yeah, like, I think having movement goals takes the pressure off too. Like, I love, again, I've said this, I love how you guys have like 60-minute run, like, it's great as a mom. It's so, like, because like I had 8 miles today, and it ended up taking longer because it's like there's stoplights, and I had to go pee, and like, and before I know it's like 75 minutes. So I love that you guys have like, it's 60 minutes, whatever you get done, you're done. That's it. Check the box. So it's like 30 minutes, move your body, walk as needed. But if you are feeling bad doing that, like you were so fatigued or whatever, which was my reality this fall, again, like running can shine a light on whether or not you have something going on under the hood. I don't know why I keep saying under the hood. But
I like that. I love it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I said it was like hormone stuff. And so that could be your cue that like you need to go to the doctor and get something checked on. Well, okay. Well, I think this was a good conversation.
Yeah. And if anybody hears and like listens to this and still has questions, obviously feel free to reach out. Yeah. If it wasn't, I think it's sometimes hard to like explain what I like when I'm talking about like my speed workouts weren't hard enough. And I don't want to go into detail and give workouts because I was writing them myself, and then yeah. So it's like if there's any questions of like what we meant by overtraining and stuff, like don't hesitate to reach out because we're always happy to talk about that.
Yeah. And because it is hard to talk about like getting faster in general. I mean, Otis has a lot to say on the topic because it's like everybody is different. Everybody's background is different. And I also don't want it to come from a place of like, ooh, look at us. We got faster. But the reality is we did. Like we all shaved time off of our marathon times. And again, we're using marathon because that's like has been our goal races. So, but like this is all of this advice is true for any distance.
Yeah. And I would love to also just add in that like your self-worth is never based off of your marathon time. Like I just see so much right now of these like insane goals and I'm like, you're going to feel so disappointed when that's not going to happen because it's not here yet. And that doesn't mean it won't happen. 8 months from now, a year from now, it will happen. You just have to be patient and let your body lead. Like how often, I mean, like when we were pregnant, we weren't like, I just need this to be done faster. I'm going to get her out at 28 weeks. You can't do that. Like,
right. No, that's such a great analogy. Yeah. So you can't force fitness. You can't force a birth. That was a really
exactly.
I mean, I guess you could walk and eat spicy food and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't, like, that's a very good analogy. There was something else I was going to add, but I don't remember. But hopefully this was helpful to people. And we're always on Instagram if you want to ask us any questions. I'm going to read a review unless you guys have anything else you want to add. Okay. All right. We got a new review from Kay Sieves. It's entitled Love This Podcast. Thank you. I actually have not read this yet, but I saw the 5 stars, so I thought it was safe. I am so insanely great because we did get a negative review a couple weeks ago. And we did take
just one.
We took the constructive criticism. It's okay.
And chucked it out the door.
And we can't be loved by everybody. We are not for everyone. Okay. I am so insanely grateful for this podcast. I'm a mom of 2 and just ran my first marathon in 2024 and fell in love with it. I signed up for my second one this year and started training again. Listening to these incredible women talk through their journeys, challenges, accomplishments, and how they balance it or sometimes don't gives me hope during my 4 a.m. runs. I'm sorry. I have Alexa telling me what the weather is in the background. She really wanted me to know. That is awesome. Thank you so much for listening and for sharing your story. And she is one of those amazing women that run at 4 a.m. I am seriously in awe of you guys that do that. Like when my alarm goes off at 6, I'm always just like, how in the world? And I'm the type of person that needs my coffee before I need it like in an IV, like get it going before I'm functional at all. So you are amazing. Keep up the good work.
Can we just add the disclaimer that it's okay that you don't run at 4 a.m. because I think that's also there's also this extreme on the internet too. It's like if you look like you're like doing extra things or like it's like over the top or whatever, like you're a badass and everybody else that does it isn't. Like you also went through that season too, Whitney, you know, and like you're now at
That's
the point
true.
where you have more flexibility and like go you for taking care of yourself and sleeping when you can so that you can keep in the sport the long haul, you know? I don't know.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. I guess you feel my guilt. So I'm like, oh,
I do.
I'm so lucky that I don't have to run at 4 a.m. anymore. And like, I feel
Yeah.
guilty for that. And I know I
Don't
should
feel
be
guilty for that.
grateful. But
You've done your fair share. It's your season now to sleep. So
I'm a much
Yes.
better person to be around when I have slept.
yep.
But the ones who are in the season and doing it,
It's hard.
you
Yeah.
are badass. It is amazing. But thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed talking to you guys as always.
Yes. This was awesome.
I hope you have a good rest of the day. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget, we have our secret podcast on Patreon. This is patreon.com/mileswithmoms podcast. And right now, we are putting up 4 extra episodes a month. Plus, other things are coming. We plan to do a live talk about the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, because we've all read it and found it to be like very eye-opening and learning how to apply it in different ways. And so stay tuned for that. Do you guys have anything to add before we say goodbye?
Sorry about my dog that whole time. That was terrible. He's finally not whining. He finally fell asleep at the end of this. Oh, nope, there he is. There he is. I'm so sorry.
I was just waiting for Nikki to come in here and then Nikki and Otis to like have some sort of secret conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, the bank is calling me, so I'm going to pick up the phone.
Ooh, the bank.
I'll stay in touch. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Hello.
Hi, Whitney.